Yep, you guessed it. It appears that none other than George Soros is behind the push to get Ketanji Brown Jackson confirmed as Supreme Court Justice. In this video, we're going to untangle the web of dark money that's pushing this confirmation. We're going to see George Soros' role in all of it, and stick me to the very end of this video, and I'll reveal why all of this is actually evidence that the left is panicking. You're not going to want to miss this. Greetings, everyone. Dr. Steve here with you. Great to be with you. As always, I am your daily fake news antidote, so come on in to your Patriot Professor's Den, where I help you to think better so you can feel better in these crazy and turbulent times. So if you've ever done so, you know what to do. Make sure to smack that bell and subscribe button. Before we begin, gang, make sure to click on that link below and support this channel by visiting our awesome merch store that's got all kinds of t-shirts and swag for you and the Patriots in your life. We've got our awesome line of Let's Go Brandon t-shirts. I've got mine on today, as well as our brand new Freedom Trucker shirts. We got rhino hunting shirts. We got all things Trump. You're going to absolutely love it. Just click on that link below. The most common feedback that we get is how often random people are going to come up to you and give you super awesome compliments on your shirt when you wear them out in public. It's just awesome. Your purchases, of course, will be spreading Patriot hope far and wide, as well as supporting this channel. So make sure to click on that link below or go to store.turleytalks.com. That's store.turleytalks.com. It's one of my favorite shirts. I love it. All right, let's dive right in here. He's back. You had to know it that during the course of the confirmation hearings for the single most radical Marxist ideologue to ever be considered for the Supreme Court, you had to know that the name George Soros was going to come up in all of this. Well, what do you know? Lindsey Graham, who I otherwise utterly detest, he's an absolute war-hawking neocon rhino, but nevertheless, even he recognized that there's been all kinds of Soros-linked dark money surrounding this nomination. Dark money, if you don't know, simply untraceable political spending. It's the funneling of what turns out to be hundreds of millions of dollars from anonymous donors into campaigns around the country. And what Graham brought up in the hearings the other day was that the organization known as Arabella Advisors is an umbrella organization that funds a number of left-wing interest groups. It itself is funded, at least in part, by the massive 1630 Fund, which has long recognized ties with George Soros, who himself is a member of another far-left advocacy group involved in all this called Democracy Alliance. Before the web of far-left activist organizations get too confusing here, very, very simply, Lindsey Graham brought up Arabella to put out there that Ketanji Jackson was pushed to the front of nominees by organizations like Arabella at the expense of other perhaps more qualified judges, such as the judge he mentioned, Michelle Childs. Now, the Washington Post, and keep in mind, it's the Jeff Bezos-owned Washington Post, right? You're seeing a pattern here, right? The radical leftist Bezos-owned Washington Post. They immediately jumped all over Graham, calling out his accusation of Arabella and Judge Childs as being totally false. And yet, as Hayden Ludwig over at the Capitol Research pointed out, all the Washington Post is doing there is carrying water for leftist activist groups. Surprise, surprise, right? The Washington Post, according to Ludwig, is basically hiding the activities of Arabella from their readership, and instead using the accusations leveled by Graham and others as a foil to just turn around and start railing and pouncing against Republicans. But that's how Soros originally came up in all of this. But now we're starting to learn more and more about the group that's pouring money into lobbying for Ketanji Jackson, and that's an organization called Demand Justice. Demand Justice is a spinoff from Arabella. They broke away and became independent over the last couple of years, if I recall. And according to records, Soros gave this organization over $1.3 million, possibly as much as $3.8 million between 2018 and 2020, which is according to Open Society Foundation's records. That's Soros' foundation. And that funding was through the 1630 Fund, which we discussed earlier. And Demand Justice, perhaps more than any other organization, is pushing and lobbying for Judge Jackson's Supreme Court confirmation. Now, this is where it gets very, very interesting here, because it's not just Soros money that's involved in all this. According to InfluenceWatch.com, Demand Justice is owned by Ezra Reese, who is formerly part of the law firm Perkins Coie. Now, does that name sound familiar? Well, if you're a regular to this channel, it would, so make sure to smack that bell and subscribe button. But Perkins Coie is the law firm that's actually behind the fabricated Russian dossier that was used by the FBI against President Trump. That's right. I mean, it really is all interconnected. In other words, the old adage, follow the money, could not possibly be more apropos here. Perkins Coie was a law firm that hired all the different actors in the Russian collusion hoax. They hired Christopher Steele to dig up dirt on Trump. He's the one who helped put together the fraudulent dossier that contained those salacious and, of course, fictitious details of a Trump visit to Russia many years back that Putin was supposedly using to blackmail Trump. They hired the political research firm in D.C. called Fusion GPS. They worked with Steele to fabricate the dirt. They employed the lawyer and Clinton operative Michael Sussman. Sussman was one of Clinton's attorneys who helped to arrange the financial transaction between the Clinton campaign and the Steele dossier. Sussman's been indicted, by the way, by John Brennan. So this organization, Demand Justice, not only is it funded, at least in part, by Soros, but it's got all kinds of nefarious associations linked up with it. Now, this has actually been going on for some time. In March of last year, so a year ago exactly, the Washington Free Beacon reported that the very same dark money groups that are pushing for Jackson to the Supreme Court lobbied for her nomination to the D.C. Court of Appeals. Again, this is from the Washington Free Beacon. This is March 26, 2021. Quote, a constellation of dark money groups is pushing U.S. District Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson's nomination to the D.C. Court of Appeals with an eye to elevating her to the Supreme Court. President Joe Biden is expected to nominate Jackson to replace Attorney General Merrick Garland on the D.C. Circuit. NBC News reports liberal activist group Demand Justice has come out in support of Jackson, who is on the group's Supreme Court shortlist. Demand Justice created the list explicitly to influence Biden's judicial appointment. So this has been going on for over a year now, gang. This far-left Soros-funded lobbying for Judge Jackson. And it's all an attempt to try to steal back the courts, as it were, wrench control of the courts back from what has been a massive shift to the right over the last 4 years during the Trump administration. We did a number of videos on how President Trump radically reshaped the federal judiciary, as well as the Supreme Court, over his 4-year tenure. So, for example, he seated more federal judiciary during his tenure than I think the last 3 presidents combined. It was something like that. It was an astounding figure. And this has clearly panicked the left. And they're doing everything that they possibly can to try to get the courts and the judicial system back under their control. They're panicked. And the level of their panic, I think, is embodied in the level of extremism, ideological extremism, that you see in Judge Jackson. Her nomination should be actively opposed by every single Republican. The dark money behind her alone should disqualify her from any consideration among any Republican worthy of the party. We'll certainly keep our eyes on how things develop here for sure, but make no mistake, Soros is once again behind it all. Now, before you go, make sure to check out my latest video on bumbling Biden's attempt to cancel Russia, backfiring big time. You're not going to want to miss it. Even the media is recognizing. So make sure to click on that link, and I'll see you over there. God bless.